I'm telling you right now, that mother back there is not real.
Sound matters. Be heard. Welcome to the podcast where you get exclusive behind-the-scenes tips to make your own show sound truly spectacular. This is Podtastic Audio.
Hey, what's happening and how are you doing? How is your podcast coming along? You know, I am Chris, and I am from the original Chris and Christine Show podcast, and you can find out every single thing about that show, including a brand new episode we just released this morning, actually like midnight, but yeah, morning, talking all about our trip to Hawaii and how you can personally help out all the victims in Maui with all those devastating wildfires. You can find it at chrisandchristineshow.com. It's our most recent episode. But here on Podtastic Audio, we're here to help you create an amazing podcast for your audience, or potentially maybe you want to get a bigger audience. Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? We all would love more downloads, more views, more comments, more posts, more of the actual audience out there to consume our content. So thank you for listening to this episode today. I really appreciate you being here with me, and I create this show for you. That's the only reason I even do this. It's not because I want to be famous. It's not because I want to talk to big shot smarty pants. It's not because I want to hobnob with all these celebrities. I could give two rips. What do I care about any of that nonsense? I create this show to help you, and that's the only reason why I'm here today. Now, I said this once before, and I'll always say it again, and that is, your podcast is your podcast. You know, you can record or produce your show however you want to do it. Listen, if you have fun and you're enjoying the ride of podcasting, or even vodcasting, or even YouTube video show making, or Instagram reel creating, however you decide to create your content for your audience, have fun, enjoy what you're doing. But if it's not working, or perhaps maybe you're thinking there's got to be a better way, or maybe, should I dump all my eggs into this basket or that basket? Well, hang on. We're going to go over all of that stuff today in this episode. So as I've been back into town here in San Diego for the last couple weeks or so, I've been extremely busy with all of the podcasting stuff, trying to get caught up on things with recording client shows. We recorded the Chris and Christine Show episode last night. I edited it best I could, mostly took care of sound quality and sound design for the most part, and then sent that out. It was like an hour and a half episode. We were talking all about our trip to Hawaii and everything else that goes around Hawaii, of course, with the Maui fires and stuff like that. And then I also was editing. We did 2 interviews back to back. We did one on Saturday, and then we did one on Sunday. And I was able to very quickly edit those, make sure they sound great, take out any like stupid parts where I think our guest actually hit the mute button on their side of the call, and they were muted for like a good few minutes. We had to tell them, you're on mute, that whole thing. And then eventually they got it fixed. And then, I was able to, take all that out in the editing process in the end. And that's basically when I do any of my editing for any of my podcasts, whether it's a guest interview or a show itself, I like to make sure the audio sounds really, really good, at least the best I possibly can make it, with all the tools we have available to us. Because if we have a guest come in, we don't know what kind of gear they have. Well, actually, we do know what kind of gear they have, but we only can hope for the best. But and I know that a guest will call in on whatever device they have, whether it's a phone, just a laptop with no microphone, or a headset perhaps maybe plugged into a computer, like this old-fashioned operator headsets. We've had those too come in. So basically, I take the audio, and I've got a few tips and tricks on how to making sure it sounds great. And one of them I mentioned before, it's the Adobe Podcast Enhance. And I usually run it through there, at least their audio. I'll run it through there and see what it sounds like on the other side. But I've been noticing a problem with the Adobe Podcast Enhance. I don't know. I think it's because it's AI generated. And what it does is that it actually will fill in the gaps of sounds it may hear. Like, for example, if you're talking to a guest via a webcam chat, or say we use clean feed, something like that, and there might be a little mic bleed coming out of their headphones into their microphone, but super, super small that we really don't even hear it. The AI computer from the podcast Enhance may actually hear it. And what it kind of is doing is it's actually like creating like mumble sounds of what it thinks is actually being said. It's kind of really irritating. Once you hear it, it doesn't sound human and doesn't sound like static. It sounds like a computer digitized voice, but really, really bad and really muffled. And I've noticed that, especially when the guest was not talking, I saw these little blips come up on the little my DAW, my audio workstation. I'm looking at it, I see like a little blip here, so I went to go push play on it to see what it sounded like, and you can hear it sounds like some kind of robotic sound. So once I recognized those things, I was able to go through there and get rid of those. And it didn't take that long, but every time I run the audio through the Adobe Enhance, I really like to look out for those kind of little digital glitches that seem to happen. I think the AI is trying to like mimic what it thinks is being said and recreate that kind of goofy sound. It's kind of weird. It's almost as if a computer was trying to like baby talk or something. It's kind of weird sound to it. But anyways, I went through there and cleaned all that up and got that all done. So I was able to take care of 2 episode interviews, recorded and edited and ready to be sent out on our future episodes. You see, as busy as I am, I would rather get things done as soon as I have time to do them and get the episodes edited immediately and sent and put back in a file folder, set aside, ready to go for another time. So I'm not worrying about it on the day of the episode release. So one of the world's largest questions when it comes to content creation, podcast creation is this. It's whether or not should you go video side or should you go audio side? Which one do you align with and which one should you focus your energy to? You see, just over the weekend, I was having a conversation with another podcaster, which was having this very same problem. His problem basically is that he likes to create a dedicated YouTube channel show. He's really pushing his YouTube channel more than he is the audio podcast channel. You see, he creates this whole video thing. It's the video screen thing. It's sitting at the desk doing the video stuff, which is fine, by the way. You totally can do that. But he would take the audio of that and put it up for an audio podcast for his podcast player side, because we all know that audio podcasting is big. YouTube is also very big. But what side do you go with if you're having to pick a side? And that made me think about this because he was really heavily leaning towards the YouTube side. Now, I get it. YouTube is entirely free. You can upload as much as you want onto the YouTube platform. You can grow a YouTube channel exclusively right on the whole YouTube thing. But the thing about YouTube, which really kind of pisses me off, I guess, is that once you're on YouTube, you're kind of stuck there, meaning that they have full control of your content. It's on their YouTube channel. They can decide to strike you out and cancel your YouTube show, cancel your channel, delete you, and then you're entirely screwed. Then what are you going to do? Go to the YouTube competitor down the street? Is there a competitor to YouTube? I mean, there might be, but YouTube is massive. If you're going to be anywhere online video-wise, I say go YouTube, go all day. YouTube for the win, and I realize that. But I just fear that they almost own the monopoly on, online video content. It's got to be all YouTube, and it's totally free. I get that. But people don't really realize that YouTube really, it's like a social media platform. And just like any social media platform, you are the product. And now on the flip side, you have the audio podcast version. Now, I love audio podcasts because of many reasons, is that I can listen to them while I'm driving. I can listen to them while I'm walking. I can listen to podcasts and consume content doing other things. And if you're especially a busy person, it's always better to have an audio podcast running rather than wasting time staring at a screen. Now, if you're already recording your content in front of a video camera, you're already taping yourself like actually recording, say, your video show, podcast show in one shot in front of a video camera. You got the video already. And if you have a decent microphone, which I hope you do, you can record the audio side and have it sounding phenomenal because you're physically in front of the camera and you're capturing your audio with your decent equipment. So you got the best of both worlds. So now that you have the best of both worlds, why not use that? You can still take your video and make it look phenomenal and do all your visual special effects and all your fancy stuff and graphics. You can still do all that stuff and put it onto your free YouTube channel. Yes, you can still do that. And then you can take that audio, strip it out of the video. You might be able to do a little enhancements on it, make it sound phenomenal. Add in maybe some intro music, some outro music, something you've already pre-recorded that you can just slap in on both sides of it. Ta-da, you're done. You're ready to go. But maybe you're thinking, yeah, Chris, if I put this on YouTube and it's on a YouTube video, why would my audience press play on the YouTube video version? And why would they go over to the audio version and press play over there if they've already watched it? Why would they do that? Well, there's a very simple answer for that. Basically, it's because you actually have two different audiences. What? Yeah. Your YouTube audience is probably different than your audio audience. The people who watch it are going to be different than the people who listen. Now, it's not saying that they may actually overcross each other. Somebody who's listening to, say, the audio podcast, they are like, well, I wonder what this guy looks like. I wonder what he's showing me. Or maybe he's talking about something that I can only watch in the video version. Like, say, if you do a YouTube show and you're saying, like, on your audio side, hey, if you're listening to this on the podcast version, go check out the YouTube video. A link is in the show notes for this YouTube video, and it's telling you to go watch something, and it'll show you exactly what I'm talking about at, say, the 30-minute mark. You can even break it down like that if you want to. This way that the listener to your audio version can still go check out your YouTube version if they really want to. Now, also, it can go the other way around. Let's say that the YouTube version guy who loves your show watching the YouTube version, but most of us don't have time to sit and watch you for an hour or half hour, sit there. We don't have time to do that. So they may actually go over to your audio version of your podcast, whether it's on Apple, Spotify, you name it. They go over there, hit subscribe, and now they can consume your content on the go while they're driving to school or to work or wherever. You're basically covering your content across two different audiences. That way, nobody gets left out. So the podcaster or video caster I was talking to was having the debate of whether or not to get rid of his actual audio podcast side because he thinks he was getting more views on the actual YouTube version. Now, YouTube checks their downloads a little differently, or their plays, I should say, a little differently than an IAB certified podcast player does. It's probably tougher to get an actual play on a podcast than it is to get a play on a YouTube video. Now, let's just say for funsies here that you have exactly 100 listeners, and 50 of those listeners are actually listening to you on all the regular podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, all the regular audio side of podcasting. And let's just say the other 50 have subscribed to you and are watching your YouTube videos on your YouTube channel. Now, here comes the question. If you're going to get rid of one or the other, which audience, which 50 members of your audience are you willing to get rid of? Me? I wouldn't get rid of anybody. I am thankful for every listener and viewer I possibly have. So why would I cut them out of the equation just so I could possibly maybe get more traffic to your YouTube channel? It's very possible. Yes, it is. But you got to remember that your audience should come first. However they consume your content, however they get your information is really what matters, because what you think about things that you should do to benefit you is irrelevant. Always be serving your audience and always give them some kind of value. If you have the capabilities to run both video and audio to serve both audiences, I say do it, because what's really important at the end of the day is your content, which is another reason why I would suggest, if you're doing an audio podcast or any kind of podcast really, is to really put yourself on as many platforms as possible. I mean, don't just go exclusively to Spotify or exclusively to Apple. Do both. It doesn't cost you anything to be on all of them. Be on all of them. Even if you get like 3 downloads from some obscure podcast player that we've never heard of, but that's 3 more people listening to your content that you wouldn't have had you only decided to put your podcast on one platform. Be everywhere. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, whatever, all of them, anyone you can find, put your podcast on there. Now, I know that most of your traffic's going to come probably from Apple and probably from Spotify. So if you're going to be in only 2, be in Apple and Spotify, but it doesn't hurt you at all to be in all the different podcast platforms out there all over the world. Why not? It's all free. Be everywhere, because you should be thinking of how can you serve your audience better? What makes it easier for them to consume your content? Now, everybody's different. Everybody's got their preference on how they like to listen or watch different things, but give them the choices, give them options. And if it's super easy to do, why not keep on doing it? But if you're going to dump everything into YouTube, go right ahead. It's your thing. Just remember that you're probably going to alienate and probably cut off a good chunk of your audience or even your potential audience. You know, last night as I record this episode, another podcaster reached out to me and he said, look, I got this big, massive show coming out tomorrow. It's going to be a big show, my biggest ever. And I said, well, what makes it so big? And then he screenshot and shared to me a celebrity headshot. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting, because he gave me the wrong answer. The correct answer would be, this person is going to bring big value and they're going to talk about X, Y, and Z and bring value to my audience. He never, ever does that. To him, the value is in the name, and that's not true at all. The real value to your audience is in the content. No matter who you bring on your show, you always have to be thinking, how does this bring value to my audience? And is this some kind of value they are looking for? If not, then toss that interview aside and say, no, that person does not bring value to my show. I don't care who they are, or what big name they have, or what show they were on in the past. It does not bring any value to my show about X, Y, and Z. Then I don't need to have them on the show. And if you do decide to bring them on the show, always be promoting the value of what was said, not the name of the person, because bringing a big shot, some name on the show does nothing for any of us listening at home, unless they deliver some kind of value to your audience, which your audience needs to be priority number 1. Not you, not because you get to talk to somebody cool, not because you think you're important. No, it's not about you. It's about your audience. I know it's hard because as content creators and even podcasters here, when we have somebody important that wants to talk to us and we actually tape it, record it, and put it together as a podcast episode, we want to share it. And we're kind of like excited because we got to talk to so-and-so. I get that. So if you're going to promote that, you really need to figure out a way to promote it in a way that benefits the listener. Every time you promote, you really should not be so much about you, but much about them, the listener, the audience. How can this benefit them? We are going to have such and such on the show today to talk about something that's going to bring you value, so yet you can fill in the blank, whatever it is, something that you can take with you and hopefully better your life, enrich your life. And saying you have a big show just because you have a big name on the show is not the same thing. Hey, thank you once again for listening to this episode today. You know what every single podcaster really needs, other than a microphone, of course? Yeah, it's probably a website. My website is podtasticaudio.com. Very simple. Go ahead and check that out. I got all kinds of past episodes over there. information, a way to contact me. And I will catch you on the next episode.